big round of applause.
Thank you very much, and I'm very glad that y'all are out here today. How are y'all doing, by the way? All right. So today I'm talking today about LGBT youth and my own work with LGBT youth activism. I was president of the Middle Georgia State College Gay Straight Alliance in Macon, Georgia, from 2012 to 2013. And during that time, when we started having more meetings, we started talking to students, many of whom were from out of state or from out of the area. They had not encountered an LGBT organization of any type. One person who served as an officer for our group was from Villa Rica, Georgia, where they typically had these conferences at this one church called the Love One Out Conference, which said that you could be cured of your homosexuality, that homosexuality was a sin. And she had never encountered something like a gay straight alliance. And she was a freshman at the time. One person was from New Jersey, one person was from Pennsylvania, and they also had never encountered a gay straight alliance, an LGBT organization that talked to them and listened to them and listened to their experiences of being LGBT or dealing with their sexual orientation or gender identity. So I was glad that even with that exposure to LGBT activism and to raising awareness on campus for LGBT youth, for LGBT students, and for the discrimination that they face and what they ought to overcome, and what the state and what all institutions in the society should help them to overcome, the stigma of homophobia, the stigma of transphobia. I'm glad to have been a part of that. And so I moved here last year, right after I graduated from college, and I went to my first Pride here in Columbus at Chattahoochee Valley Pride. That was quite an exposure because LGBT people in Columbus or Georgia in general, when they're outside of Atlanta, a lot of them don't get that exposure. A lot of youth and a lot of old people, they don't get that exposure to LGBT activism towards someone saying to them that no, it's not a sin. Your sexual orientation, your gender identity is not a sin. It's a feature, not a bug. It is, all right? It is something that is innate to you and is nobody else's business but yourself and the person who you love.
Amen.
Indeed. And that's something that they need to hear. We need to shout it from the rooftops here in Columbus. We need to shout it from the rooftops in Macon. We need to shout it from the rooftops in Valdosta and other cities and the small towns in Georgia, where people who are even working in the workplace, private workplaces. For example, this one teacher at Mountain Sales Academy in Macon, he was fired from his job where he served as a teacher for several years in the music classes there because he was about to get married to the man of his life, to the love of his life. And the people who ran who run Mountain Sales Academy, they did not like that. And all the students and all the parents who had known this guy, Flint Dollar is his name, they knew him. They knew the good that he did in his community. And they were distraught that they would fire him so willy-nilly just because he loved someone enough to marry him and spend the rest of his life with him. And there are no protections against that discrimination in Bibb County. And there are no protections here in Muskogee County for private or public workplace discrimination or the firing on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. There's no protection in housing. There's no protection in city contracts. People could fire you or evict you or dispossess you because of your sexual orientation and gender identity here in the state of Georgia and in Muskogee County. That has got to change. That has got to change. And it starts with talking to the youth. because this is the generation that is now voting, forming the greater voting base for greater LGBT and civil